Did Hamas overplay its hand in the October 7th attack? On October 7, 2023, Hamas began a surprise offensive on Israel, releasing over 5,000 rockets. Roughly 2,500 Palestinian militants breached the Gaza-Israel barrier and attacked civilian communities and IDF military bases near the Gaza Strip. At least 1,400 Israelis were killed. While the outcome of this Israel-Hamas war is far from determined, it would appear early on that Hamas has much to lose from this war. Possible and likely losses. 1. Higher Palestinian civilian casualties than Israeli civilian casualties. 2. Higher Hamas casualties than IDF casualties. 3. Destruction of Hamas infrastructure, tunnels and weapons. 4. Potential loss of Gaza Strip territory, which would be turned over to Israeli settlers. Did Hamas overplay its hand by attacking as it did on October 7? Do they have any chance of coming out ahead from this war, and if so, how? Hamas doesn't care about Palestinians. So no, they got exactly what they wanted: 1. A suspension of the normalization process between Israel and the Arab war world, and 2. An aggressive IDF response by way of killing hella innocent Palestinian civilians that serves as weakens global support for Israel. Hamas is an agent of chaos. It doesn't care about the consequences. They only care about messing things up. They have no goal apart from the elusive destruction of Israel, which will never happen in this lifetime. But they will always have supporters because Israel is, rightfully most of the times, hated for their appalling treatment of Palestinians. So Hamas have nothing to lose as such. The current situation is therefore a complete win for them. Its leaders won't be threatened. And even if they were somehow taken out by Israel, some other people are waiting in the sidelines to take over. Just like a crime family or some such. Hamas sold out their own people while living comfortably outside of Palestine along with their Iranian masters. Dying to Win by Robert Pape is a good book to understand the motives of terrorism. I don't think Hamas overplayed their hand, but that their allies overplayed it. Hamas doesn't care about anything but the jihad. They don't care about being alive. They don't care about Palestine. They wanted to disrupt Saudi-Israel talks, which they did. That's it. Allies outside were the ones saying it was revolutionary decolonial violence, knowing fully well that Palestine will be turned into rubble. Hamas got to kill Israelis. That is a win for them, even if many more Palestinians die. They didn't really have much to lose. Saudi Arabia is on the brink of recognizing Israel. The two-state solution is long dead. The West Bank seems destined to be ethnically cleansed of most Arabs and made part of Israel. And Gaza has just been a worsening open-air prison since Israel withdrew its settlers and made it a doomed Bantustan. The status quo was their people's genocide. So a desperate attempt to do something was bound to happen. Depends what you think Hamas goals are. If their goals are cement their reputation as the faction that is willing to fight Israel, not just talk about it, they're doing just fine. If they want to, help Palestinians, not so much. Honestly, no. Do the attacks do anything to address their grievances with Israel? No. Will the attacks do much to impair the IDF's ability to fight? No. Will they inevitably cause more damage to Hamas than the IDF? Yes. Will the attacks lead to counter-attacks which will hurt the Palestinians? Yes. But what the attacks will do is make it harder to have a peace process and increase support for Hamas, as both Palestine and international observers decry the blockade and Israeli airstrikes. And that's what they really want. That, and they get to murder some Jews, which for some reason is a bonus to them. There is a non-zero chance that Israel commits sufficient war crimes to damage its international support. If that happens, there is a possibility that this long-term works out for the Palestinians. Hamas made it possible that Israel had to fight back, and this will encourage another generation of young Muslim men to join the terrorist movement. The attack was a deliberate act to get Israel to overreact. My paranoid nature tells me that they are laying a Trojan horse attack and are waiting for Israeli troops to begin a ground assault. Once the IDF moves in, Hamas will ignite a dirty bomb and decimate the Israeli army, causing a true shitstorm in the region. Overplay their hand? You're asking this question like they're a rational political movement. They're not. They're murderous jihadists who are willing to die to spread their religion by force. Their goal is to kill the unbelievers and reclaim lost territory. They think they're coming out ahead because they're looking at the very long horizon. And I expect they will win over the long term. I doubt there will be any Jews or non-Muslims in the Middle East in 100 years. Absolutely. Hamas committed an act of terrorism and seemingly has been the catalyst to provoke international debate. While I don't believe they had or have the foresight to determine what would happen, I don't think they anticipated they wouldn't receive any support. Too soon to tell. Things are just getting started. They weren't just going for a one-time big event without a larger plan. Literally, the end goal of Hamas is simply to kill Jews. They don't care about the Palestinian people. They don't care about living conditions in Gaza. They have no geopolitical motives. They just want to kill as many Jews as possible. So no, I don't think they overplayed their hand. The notion that Hamas has a hand to play is laughable. Hamas wouldn't exist if Israel could stay within its borders. Yes. And it isn't about the losses thus far on the ground. Hamas cemented their status as terrorists worldwide and cost themselves support. They never really had the high ground. But in that attack they lost whatever high ground they might have had. Now the left in the USA is much more united in support of Israel. And that isn't good for Hamas and Palestine. Hamas released hostages. The release alone tells you that Hamas knows that they're up shit creek. And the probability they are completed destroyed is nearing a certainty. Israel has a very high likelihood of entirely wiping out the remains in Gaza, and then the guys in Qatar will be bargaining tools Qatar can use in their normalization with Israel. Of course it did. But what people need to understand is that the Palestinians are Hamas and Hamas is the Palestinians. We need to stop saying that Hamas doesn't represent Palestinians when, except for a very few exceptions, it indeed does. I don't think they overplay considering what Israel's is doing now. I think Israel's action is overplay and went beyond self-defense. Considering that they literally apartheid Gaza. Any excessive force beyond self-defense and rescue will be seen as a bloodthirsty country. I personally think the Hamas brought more attention to the situation of the Palestinians' people. While Hamas is a terrible terrorists group, they most likely got more people on their side when Israel went overboard. We're seeing a lot of pushback from many countries against Israel's excessive force. Hamas' only goal is global genocide of the Jews. After 10/7, global anti-Semitism is skyrocketing. So in that respect, their attack was successful. Yes, they actually lost a lot of goodwill worldwide. That will haunt them for a long time. Big miscalculation. They don't care. They believe they'll get 72 virgins for their martyrdom. In reality, they're a bunch of uncivilized cowards. Their entire purpose is to eliminate Israel. They are playing the long. There is no such thing as overplaying their hand. This is generational, and you are looking at it from a global ADHD perspective.